What's up, everybody? This is Coach Donnie with ElevateYourself.org. Welcome to
Woo!
the episode of The Dig, where we talk about everything from volleyball to training and dig deeper behind the life of the person. And I am very excited to have a special guest today, Victoria Garrick. And some of you guys might know her. She was a USC walk-on, very inspiring story as a four-year starting libero from 2015 to 2018. I first discovered her on my YouTube feed with her video, How I Got Recruited to USC, which is a great video, and I'll link that video in the description box for you to check out. More importantly, she's also a mental health and body image advocate, and she's also YouTube famous and Instagram famous. And some of you guys might remember from my US AV Nationals 2019 vlog, where she made a guest appearance, and that's where I first met her. And then she also gave us some really inspiring words, and she played in that very building. So if you want to learn more about that, make sure you watch that video too. So Victoria, if you could please share a little bit more about yourself in case I missed anything.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to do this, and I'm grateful that we met. It's funny when you came up to me, you're like, "Oh, we take a video for my page or for I think my channel." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, of course." I wasn't thinking much of it, and then I think later that night I saw the tag and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you talk about YouTube famous! You have so many subscribers." I was like, I should have been more prepared for this video. But no, I think you said everything well. That is definitely my story. Walk on, turned college athlete. I think I never really knew if I would play all 4 years, but I ended up doing it, and I'm really proud that I did.
Yeah, and USC is one of the top schools, so definitely not a short accomplishment. Something that definitely is really inspiring for anybody that feels like if I'm not a top recruit, if you work hard and stay dedicated, you got to fight for your own opportunities, and that's really the greater lesson that you can learn from her story.
I was just going to add a little sprinkle of, I think we're the only people that really know our potential. And you can have coaches that might say, "Oh, you're not good enough to be on this team," or "You could never be this," or "Your vertical could never be this." But I think we are the only people that really know if that's the case or not. And I knew I couldn't have a vertical that was good enough to play at USC, but I knew I could be a good enough defender to play there. So I just think you're going to have a lot of people when you're younger telling you what you can and cannot do as an athlete. But the most important thing is being the only person that sort of sets those limits.
Wow, so true. And to add on to that, it's for me, I've been told my whole life that I'm too short to be a hitter, can't play in college, whatever. And I mean, I am short relative to men's volleyball. I'm only 5'10", but I just had this burning fire inside of me that I just want to hit. I'm going to figure out whatever way I can, and I'm going to hit. I don't care how tall you are. And actually, the taller the blockers were, the more motivated I was to prove them wrong and to break fingers. So to me, it's just something that I fed off. But truly, I always tell the people that I coach, especially the girls at my girls' high school team, that you can only accomplish what you believe. If you don't believe you can do it, then you're not going to do it. So let's move on to.
True.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm sorry. I could keep talking about this all day long. It's like my favorite topic. You keep going.
No, it's
I was just gonna say there's a quote, and I'll actually tell a story. I don't know if I think I told this story once in one of my videos, but you'd have to really be watching. I said something about how I was running sprints in preseason during training against a girl who I was battling for a starting spot with, and the whole week I was thinking, "Oh, she's got me. Like I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough," and I wasn't playing well. And I was just giving it to her. And then we were doing sprints one day, and I know sprints aren't volleyball, but right before that race, I was like, if I can beat her in this sprint right now, I can beat her in volleyball. And so I just gave my all in that sprint. I beat her in the sprint, and I went to the locker room and I wrote down that quote that said, "If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will." And so for me, that was like, hey, if I believe I can do it, I can do it. So it's very powerful having that inner belief.
That's a great story. So is that quote is that your own quote?
No, I believe that's a famous sports quote. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. And I never really resonated for me until that moment where I was like, I'm going to make this sprint mean everything. And if I can beat her in this sprint, I can do it. And I wrote it down on athletic tape because I was in my locker room, and I stuck the tape on my mirror because I didn't have like a paper. And I had it up there until for the next 3 years.
Damn, that's awesome. And I think that's why I vibe with so much with your channel is you have such a strong underdog story about you, and that's something that we can all relate to. And you don't have to be short, you don't have to be slow to have an underdog mentality, but just that mindset of I am going to do it. I'm going to fight through whatever, regardless of whoever doesn't or does believe me. As long as I know myself, I can accomplish it. So I think that's what's so inspiring about kind of your brand. I guess the Victoria Garrick brand.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So let's go on to the quick set. So it's just 10 questions, and it's more of like a stream of consciousness response. So I'm not going to ask anything too crazy, but just so people get to know the inside Victoria. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
You get 2 options, and you get to choose one or the other. Okay.
Okay.
First question: Mikasa or Molten?
Molten.
Long sleeve or short sleeve jersey?
Long sleeve.
Kill or ace?
Ace.
Perfect serve receive pass or perfect dig?
Perfect serve receive pass.
Breakfast or dinner?
Dinner.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Night out or night in?
Night in.
YouTube or Instagram?
Instagram.
Club volleyball or high school volleyball?
Club.
Carrie Walsh or Misty May?
Oh, I can't pick between those two. I'll say Carrie Walsh because she's coming on my podcast and I appreciate it.
Okay, there you go. Also a local Bay Area person.
Yes.
Oh yeah, by the way, for those of you guys who know, you played at Red Rock, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a Bay Area club in Redwood City, and then you're from Atherton?
Yes, is right by Stanford, near the Palo Alto area.
Here, represent.
California on my license plate. Last year they ain't even like the bay.
So how did you start playing volleyball?
I played for my middle school sports teams. I did soccer, basketball, volleyball. I ran track. I did 1 year of softball, but I was always a 4-sport athlete in middle school. And then with volleyball, it was like, I remember it was 8th grade and I just had a pretty good like overhand topspin serve. And in 8th grade, I don't know, at the time it was pretty good. And I didn't play club ever. So how old are you in 8th grade? Like, I don't know, 13? You're 13, 14? And I hadn't played club. So a lot of girls play like 12s, 13s. I'd never played, but I had a pretty natural overhand serve and I was pretty strong. And one of the coaches from Red Rock, shout out Robin, he saw me serving at a St. Joe's volleyball game and told me I should try out for club volleyball. And I had no idea what it was, but some of the people I knew played it. So my mom took me to tryouts. I tried out and I made the 14 threes team. So I made the worst team one could make.
That's great. And then, I mean, look at where you are now.
I know. I had a mom email me the other day and she said, my daughter just made the 14 threes team and she's crying and she's so upset and she doesn't even want to play club this year. But I tried to tell her that Victoria Garrick started on the 14 threes team. She's like, can you please email my daughter? It's just funny. Like I didn't even care. Like I didn't know a lot about club. I was like, oh, there's a ones and I don't know. I just went to my threes team and I was like, let's go.
Yeah. And I'll probably kudos to your parents for like just being affirmative of that experience, because I mean, I see this so often in the classroom that parenting plays such a huge role in how a young person views their life, and if they view it as a bad experience, they get that from somewhere, versus a parent just telling you, yeah, you made a team, good job, deal with it. Like just be better if you want to get better, and
yeah.
So what made you want to play libero?
Honestly, playing in the Pac-12. When I was 15 years old, realized I wanted to like college volley. Was it when I was 16? No, wow. When I was 15, I realized I wanted to play college volleyball. So after just a year of club, well, I mean, I played on the 14 threes team. Halfway through the year, I got brought up to the twos team. So that's when my mind, it's like the threes team, you're kind of kept like in the dark. Then when you get to the twos team, you're like around the ones team more. So I started realizing like there's all these levels and there's this recruitment. So that I finished the 14 years on the twos team. I made the 15 ones team, and I was the worst on the team. But these girls were having college coaches come. One of them was committed to Colorado. So I was on a 15s team with a girl who was already going Pac-12. So it started getting on my radar, and I don't know why I loved USC so much. I just did. I thought Natalie Hagland was an amazing player. I thought the team was just like next level. And when I watched them play at Stanford, I just gravitated towards it. And so I realized I wasn't a good enough hitter to hit at that next level. And I think it's really important too for young volleyball players to know their weaknesses. You know, as much as you want to be something, I mean, we have to be realistic, right? Like I can't, like maybe I could have got my vertical up where I could have been outside for you. Like, I don't know. I can't even finish a sentence because I just really don't think it would have happened. So I was like, but how can I put myself in a position to be recruited by these schools? And it was becoming a libero. But I actually wasn't the one that thought of this in the first place. My coach sat me down, and I remember where we were sitting in the club arena, and she was like, I want you to be our libero next year. Like, I think if you want to play USC, you want to play Pac-12, like this is the move for you. And I didn't fight her on it. I mean, my dad was definitely bummed. My dad was like, oh, why? Like, no, you're a good hitter. Like, you led them in kills. Like, my dad's looking up the stats. Like, you know, I went to state championships with my high school team as an outside, wow. D4, but still. And I was one of the starting hitters with another hitter who was going to Princeton. So my dad was like, no, you can hit. And I was like, no, I think this is the move. I don't know. And then I was just drawn to the position. I think there's something super powerful about being solely dedicated to one thing. Like I will keep the ball off the ground, you know, and I love owning a role like that. So everything sort of aligned, and I felt like I had a great personality fit for this position.
Yeah, you know, I didn't get to watch you play on TV as much. I don't keep up with all the women's games, but I remember when I did see you play for, was it the academy, whatever team you played for at nationals. You know, other people on the team, I'm sure played, you know, in college, but you definitely had a different level of fire and commitment that was separated yourself, and it wasn't just loud and obnoxious. But there was an intensity, and I think you totally hit the nail on the head about just mentally, you have to be in a different mental place. You can't view passing as a passive skill. It is the end all and be all. This is my job. So I could definitely see that.
Well, yeah, but there's pros and cons to the mindset, because I think it's weird. In club, I was thinking about this the other day, because I never had performance anxiety in club volleyball. And I think back, and I remember one game where I had performance anxiety. I didn't know what it was. It was, I mean, I don't want to fast forward too much, but it was my 18 open year. We were playing a team in the gold bracket, and I just felt like I wasn't in the zone, and I didn't know why. And I look back and now I know what it was. But so my whole club career, like I had that mentality. I'm the libero, like I'm the Red Rock libero, like I will pass the best, like I will dig the most balls, like this is my position. And then when I got to college, and we can get into this later, but that mindset sort of worked against me, and I had to reevaluate it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, I can't wait to hear how that mindset evolved later. So a lot of people, especially people that have been playing club for a while and play at a certain level, they sometimes get burnt out, you know, at the end of the high school career. So what made you even to want to play in college, like beyond just wanting to play at USC? Like, how did you know I wanted to play sports in college?
I didn't have burnout in high school. I loved volleyball. Like I would come home from school around 3, and be putting on my knee pads at like 4:30 and practice wasn't until 7:30, you know? Like I was excited. Like I loved going to practice. It was it was my favorite part of the week. So I didn't have burnout, but then again, my practice when I was in high school was 3 times a week. And I think nowadays I hear from a lot of girls that message me and whatnot that they have like 4 times a week and a workout day with our conditioning day with the team. Like it's crazy how intense it has gotten at the high school level. So I bet that that's the reason why I didn't have burnout, is because I didn't have as rigorous of a schedule. But I did 3 days a week for 4 years of high school, obviously including all the tournaments, and I loved every second. So to keep to the college level to me was just that next level. And that was always my goal. I never thought about like professional or the Olympics. Like I wasn't one of those people. I just thought about college volleyball, Division I.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I didn't play, unfortunately, my coach in high school didn't tell us about club volleyball. So for me, I was playing high school and I was essentially holding my breath for like 8 months of the year. And I didn't know about open gyms outside of our high school open gyms. So I didn't really get bit by the bug until my freshman year of college. And then I was like, what? There's volleyball outside of high school? And I just ended up playing like 7 days a week. So I think, but then yeah, it sucks. And what sucks is that my coach actually played club in high school, but maybe she didn't know there was club for boys or didn't really push us in that direction. But I do feel like I did miss out on some of it. But maybe that's why I'm still hungry, even at my age, because I didn't get those 4 years of playing year round that I'm still trying to make up for, that I enjoy. So when it comes to playing libero, how do you shift or if there is a shift of focus between playing defense or serve receive? Like when you were at USC, did you have a mentality switch, or was it just kind of all in the same blanket?
That's a really good question that I haven't had to think about for a while. At the USC level, serve receive is the most important part of the game. So in serve receive, I definitely, I don't know, I would say when I was you get used to it, like going from serve receive to defense, serve receive, defense, serve receive, defense. But I would just say like before, there are things I would think about before the play in serve receive or in defense. So if I was on the line ready to pass, I would maybe look at the server, I check who's next to me, I think about what kind of passer they are, what kind of player I'm going to need to be in this moment, right? Like, am I more aggressive? Do I need to call the ball? Do I have to take the seam? Are they good? So obviously they're all good, but is this a passer that's going to be targeted by their team, or is this a passer that can hold her own? So I'm sort of establishing my surroundings, and then I'm looking at the angle. So if the server's in zone 1 and I'm in 5, or if I'm in 6 and the server's in 5, like what my most comfortable angle is. So for example, when I was in zone 1, that was the place I liked to pass the least. So if I was in zone 1, I would definitely think about like, my first step will be with my left foot or something. And this sounds like a lot, but it's really not. When you get on the court, I'm like, all right, it's her, server's there, I'm going to open, just real quick. And then I'd say on defense, I guess at this level, at defense, I would always look across the net. I'd see what the routes are. Do I have a quick hitter? Do I have a big hitter? Just remind myself before the play, like all the options the setter has. But then I think when the play started, I would read, but definitely, I don't know. This is a hard question. There's so many differences between serve receive and defense, but after a while, you're not thinking that much, right? Like I'm in the game, I know what to do. So I think the biggest switch would just be serve receive. I was more careful and calculated, and defense, I was a lot more free and instinctual. There we go. I should have said that in the beginning.
It's a tough question especially if it comes more naturally, but that's a great way to sum it up. That's a good piece of advice for people that end up having to play both. And I hope I don't know if it's trickled down to the college level yet, but internationally, you can switch liberos, defense and offense, and I feel like if we adapt that here, it's just going to make people's passing weaker. You know.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. I would feel so. I think you gain your confidence usually from one of the things.
Mhm.
So if I'm passing dimes and I'm missing digs, it's like, all right, I'm passing dimes, so I'm feeling kind of confident the digs are going to come, or vice versa. But if I was just in there to do one of the things and I didn't do it well, and then I had to go back and do it again, I don't know. It's nice to have a mental break. Sometimes when I'm like, oh, it's defense, clutch, I'm just going, I feel like the pressure is less on me.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's more opportunities to redeem yourself. Like, let's say if I got 1 point pass and so receive, but I like, oh, I can get the next dig, or if I overpass. I played libero they started like a semi-pro team here in the Bay Area, so I played libero for 3 years, and I just remember as an outside hitter, I could always hit myself out of a situation. I know I can always get a 1 point pass. Just set me a high ball, I could put it away. But if I overpass as a libero, it's like, man, that's all I'm here to do. But if
you're done. You lost. And so it's brutal. I mean, and especially like, this is something I talk about a lot, but as a college libero, it often felt like my job was to pass 3 passes, aka perfect passes. So if I did my job, cool, I'm doing my job. No one's patting me on the back. Like, that's what I'm supposed to do. And if I'm not perfect, I've made a mistake, I'm not doing my job well, I'm messing up. Like, so you're either perfect and no one's acknowledging you because you're supposed to be perfect, or you're not. And it's such a fine line, So that was always a struggle. And sometimes I'd be having like amazing games where I'm passing amazing. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing so well. And no one cares. No one says anything because that's what I'm supposed to do. But it's really, really hard for me to do,
No, so true. And like, good passing looks really boring. If you're diamond threes, your body is really calm and still, is frozen. You're not digging with one arm. You're not diving on the floor. Yeah, it looks very. I tell my girls all the time, it's like, good volleyball should look boring, and it's amplified as a libero.
True, it's so true. And I was never a flashy libero. I mean, like, that was just not me. There's some girls who, they're always making these saves that are like insane looking. I don't know what that has to do with, but that was really never my MO. But because passing is so hard, I always turn and high five the passer when we FBK, when we first ball kill. So I remember being in games where like they had a tough server go back behind the line, and my outside dime the pass, or my DS dime the pass. And the first thing we do is look at each other. We're like, yeah, because we know how hard that was to do. Whereas the setter's like, oh, that was easy, and the hitter's like, oh, great, I got a kill. So I always was attentive to that because I respect it. I know how hard it is.
Sure. And I don't know which job is more thankless between middle or libero in terms of how hard they have to work, but so much. Like, in your opinion, which one's more thankless?
They're so different because the middles actually get to point score, but the middles are also blamed for everything. But I also think if you're a really good libero, you're probably not touching a lot of balls, right? Because they're probably not I don't know. They're not going to serve you, but are you taking seams and are you making it depends. I would say, I don't really know. That's tough. I also feel bad I've never played middle, so I can't really say mine's harder because I don't really know. I've never played middle, but I know definitely they both get overlooked and blamed a lot.
Yeah.
My dream position is outside. I wish I could be an all-around outside hitter, but
so that's one of my questions of, are you a secret outside hitter at heart? So there you go. That answers the question.
I played outside in high school, and I definitely loved the feeling of getting the kill. Because I am somewhat intense, I was the player to be like, set me the ball, I will get the point. Yeah. And it frustrates me when really good hitters don't do that. And it's like, I want a really good hitter to demand the ball.
Yeah.
And even if I demanded the ball and I got blocked, I'd be like, okay, next one, I'll make a better play. Like, I'm not going to get discouraged. So I knew that was a great trait for me as an outside hitter. However, physically, physically, I just wasn't tall enough. I didn't jump high enough. I wasn't good enough at outside. But with my mentality, I think I would have been pretty good. But yeah, there's sometimes in games where I'm just like, I'm getting digs, I'm getting passes, and I'm like, I want to hit one.
You probably do one of those. I've seen liberos when they get desperate, they just like try to tomahawk it on the first ball over, or do something tricky.
No, but it's funny because obviously at USC, these hitters are so phenomenal. The players are so amazing. I mean, I'm in awe of their swings. That one game my freshman year at UCLA, and I have a picture of this too, our setter accidentally sent me a bic. I think she thought Sam Bricio was back there. It was like a scramble play. And she sent me a bic, and I jumped to hit it. And Brittany Abercrombie, who was our right side, she's in the background, and she's like this. Like, in the picture, she's like, oh, no. Because obviously I think I'm a good outside at heart, but all these girls are like, okay, sit down. Yeah. And fortunately, I didn't hit it in the net, so it was good. But it's just funny how, I'm like, oh, I would be a great outside, but all my teammates would be like, no, thank you.
You know what would have been great is if you did that as a libero, if you're just so frustrated and you're just like, set me, and you get a kill, even though it's illegal, just so you can prove to them, like, dude, get the job done. Look at me.
Well, they always got the job done. And I could never do it better than them. But there obviously are moments where the game is tight and like you wish you could be the person to get the point. I think that's the thing as a libero is like you can't score the point. So it is selfless in that way. Like you're constantly working really hard so that other people can get their points. And that's why it's great to have a good relationship with your outsides and your pins so that you can be super happy and excited for them, when they get those points.
Yeah. So true. Speaking of which, after your USC career, I'm curious I know you went to an international competition through USA Volleyball. So what did you ever, through your college career, think, okay, next step is I'm going to try to go for the national team or play professionally? Or was that something like, nah, college is always it?
I mean, I wish that the USA volleyball team, or coaches thought that I was, at that caliber. To be honest, it was never something I was dying to pursue. For me, like to be told I was never going to make it at D1, to make it at D1, like that was the cherry on top of my big, like that was the peak for me. Yeah. And I'm not saying like, and I also, that professional experience I thought was really a fun time for me. That was something I really wanted to do because I knew I wasn't going to go pro. I think that there's a misconception with professional volleyball, like, because I looked into it. The main reasons I didn't want to go pro is because the biggest reason is I don't want to leave the country. I just love America. I love being with my family. I love everything about this country. So to live in another country wasn't something that I really wanted to do in my heart. But the other thing is a lot of the professional teams, the ones that I would probably be playing at, would lose like 10 times out of 10 to a USC. So in my mind, it's like, why would I want to give up a career I'm really passionate about to not make a ton of money, right? Because of female sports, to play on a team that's worse than my college team and not be in the country where my family is. So it just all seemed like, I just felt like I was content. Like I was tying a bow on volleyball, like with what I had done at USC. And I never had Olympic goals, I don't know. I don't know if I mean, that was never like, I don't want to talk about that. Like that was never on the table for me. Right. I think if you're that kind of player, they're calling you, and asking you to go, I'm very content with just, my college career.
Okay. Well, that's cool. No, that makes a lot of sense. And it's, professional sports in the US has a different connotation, especially it's a very glamorous lifestyle, but the volleyball professional lifestyle is very lonely, for the first. It's not a lot of money, and you're right, you have to, I think in the US, you can get away with playing in the NBA or NFL without truly loving the craft. Like, I think you could do it because there's money, but I don't think you can play overseas volleyball without loving it. Like, it can't be for any other reason, right? You can't do it for the money or social.
Yeah, that's a great point. You totally have to do it for the love of the game. And I mean, now to be honest, like, I was done. Like you talked about that burnout. I mean, I wasn't burnt out in high school, but after 4 years of college volleyball, I was done. I don't have another season in me. I don't wish I had another indoor season. Like, obviously, I wish I could go play one more game against UCLA, or I could go, play one more game against Catherine Plummer. That would be a fun challenge. But do I want 35 games, a tournament, no, because there's so much behind the scenes that goes into that picture you see on NCAA volleyball.
Oh, for sure. Well, hopefully you can at least play once a year at USA Nationals as an outside hitter.
I know, I know. Well, I hope. It's funny. I know I went with that team and it was really fun playing with those girls, a lot of whom were like pros, All-Americans, and I had just graduated. So I'm hoping they call me back for next year. I don't know if they'll be like, she's too rusty. She hasn't played in a year. We don't want her. but I think it would be fun. But I actually got the itch to play volleyball like last week. And so this past Saturday, I did a beach volleyball tournament with my friend Gert Leisha. We played like 4 games. My body is so sore. I'm not, beach is so hard for me. I mean, talk about indoor, it's like just be stopped, balanced, and make a play. In beach, you're never supposed to be stopped. It was really fun though to just use my platform again and compete. I just miss competing. I love being competitive.
Yeah, that's tough. I'm sure you get your competitive juices out and like trying to grow your speaking career. That's kind of like your new focus?
It doesn't feel competitive. I mean, I don't feel like there's someone I'm competing with. If anything, I obviously compete with myself. Like, was I my best self today? Did I squeeze out all that I had in myself today? Like, I have that competition with myself. However, I think sometimes it can work against me. Like, I think I can be really judgmental about myself. Maybe that's because I think with sports, I was able to say, oh, well, this was my statistic, or we've won this many games, or I'm on the court and I had these reasons why like I was doing well. Whereas now, I'm self-employed, I'm doing a lot of things on my own. It's just easy for me to constantly be saying I could be doing more, I could be better, because there's no real metric, right? Like in our whole game of life, there's no, and I don't think it's material things, right? Like I don't think an amount of money or an amount of followers or an amount of whatnot is going to satisfy anyone, because that's not what it's about. Mm-hmm. So I think I've just been trying to redefine my metric of success, which I feel like is just, was I the best version of myself today, and am I happy? And those two things are in my control all the time. And I've really been trying to figure out how to accomplish those every single day, because it's not easy.
Yeah, that's great insight. I know any time an athlete transitions, like especially after a successful career, it's like, well, what's next? I've wired my brain to chase these tangible goals or chase these things, and now it's not there. What am I worth now? How do I evaluate my self-worth? And yeah, that's got to be. Yeah, to go from tangible to intangible, that's got to be so hard. Now, you've touched upon some body issue stuff, and I think that was probably the first thing that drew me to your video, because I saw your How I Got Recruited to USC. I saw them on my feed a couple of times, and I said, okay, it's probably just going to be something informative. And then for me, I was trying to watch it so I can help prepare my girl, educate myself, and help prepare my girls to see any other ways to get recruited for college. And the first thing that caught my attention was just the quirky humor that just I totally connected with, like the slow motion, awkward moments, and it's like more than just slapstick stuff. But I think for me it came from a place of like real deep self-acceptance. Here am, like, this is me. I can be quirky, but I'm not quirky to try to be cute or try to pretend to be cute. Like, this is awkward as hell. Look at this. I am laughing at myself. And I was like, okay, this is something that I actually enjoy. And then, you touched upon, and then I think the next video under the recommended list was your TED Talk on, it was your NCAA talk, something, one of those. And I saw that one right after. I was like, okay, there's a lot of depth to this person. This is more than just a volleyball player. So if you can share a little bit about kind of what inspired you to use your volleyball platform to talk about some of your concerns about that.
Yeah, for sure. With the advocacy for mental health and body image, it wasn't, and I honestly hate giving this answer because I know from experience of like sitting in a class or learning from someone, I'm like, how did you become this? You know, I want them to tell me, well, if you organize, you're this way and you plan out this, you can get this. And so I feel like people want that from me. But to be very honest, I just was experiencing a lot of these issues. Like my whole freshman year, I was gaining weight. I was trying to diet. I developed disordered eating habits. I was anxious all the time. And then that anxiety and all of those issues my freshman year led to being depressed sophomore year. And like I felt far away from that quirky, fun girl that I was. And it was really scary. And when I started realizing what was happening, I just couldn't believe like no one had warned me, or that I didn't know an athlete could experience a mental health issue. Like I thought athletes were immune because we're so strong, or that because I was a USC athlete living my dream, I wouldn't feel sadness. You know, I just didn't think that this could happen. And I was also embarrassed. I felt guilty. I felt like I would be considered weak for having issues. So anyways, when I got the opportunity to start to give that TED Talk, which was the very first thing I did, I jumped at it because, and the main reason, and I honestly believe this, is because when I was laying in bed one night, very depressed, fearing like what was wrong with me, I was Googling like depression and athletes who are depressed, and nothing came up. I think I found one video of a Michigan football player. I honestly would love to find him now and call him up and tell him how that video inspired me. I found one video. And I found one person that made me feel valid, but I saw hundreds of others that made me feel like I was the only one. So when I had the opportunity to speak on it, I did, in hopes that now there would be 2 videos you could find when you Google it. And so from that, people messaged me, and the reaction was just incredible. The amount of people that said, oh, I have a body image issue, or I was depressed, or I felt this way too. And I realized, okay, like, well, do you want to hear more? Because I can share more. You know, I'm such an open book. I don't have secrets. So I started posting about it. And then more people wanted to follow and more people wanted to message me. And so that is sort of how the advocacy work all began.
That's great. That's really cool how I'm sure that Michigan guy had no idea to inspire. So, I mean, you've kind of taken it to another level in terms of reaching a new audience and having a huge platform. So it's just kind of just how that kind of gets passed on. Like, I mean, how many seeds now you're planting to the future Victorias out there that are going to amplify that message, and so on and so on. And like as a coach, I've always viewed volleyball. I love volleyball. I'm passionate about it, and I only want to work with people that are passionate about it as well. But beyond that, it's really just a medium to teach about life. Like you reel them in, you know, connect with some volleyball, but then it gives you so much more. And I think it gives you so much greater connection. And I mean, obviously just sports in general, but like we wouldn't have all these connections without that medium of volleyball. And once we get that connection, then we could really start talking about life stuff beyond that. I think it gets it's that first initial bridge.
Definitely. And the volleyball community runs super deep. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about YouTube, or at least I didn't know anything about YouTube like 8 months ago, but I post one video about volleyball and I have all these people who are volleyball players that want to watch. So it's like the volleyball community, like from just that example, shows you like how many people there are that love this sport. Yeah. And it's very cool to find friends and make connections, you know, through the volleyball world, like just how we met.
Yeah. And I'm curious we have a lot of high school and collegiate fans. Like my demographics, like 16 to 25, majority of the people that watch. So in your experience, what body image issues existed in high school and in college, and like were they different or the same?
I just missed the sort of age of the influencer when I was in high school. When I was a sophomore in high school, I was like, what is Snapchat? that was when Snapchat was just becoming big, a sophomore in high school. And I think a lot of 14-year-old, 13-year-olds right now are on Snapchat. So that would be me on Snapchat when I made that 14 threes team. And I just can't even imagine it. Like, I didn't have that. But in high school, I found it. Like, I was online looking up Victoria's Secret models and how much do they weigh and looking at pictures. So in high school, I was actively seeking this out, like going out of my way. Whereas now I think girls wake up and, ooh, they're following her. So there's the post. You don't even have to want to look for it. It's just there, you know? And so I think for me in high school, it was definitely something I cared about and I thought about it a lot, but I never was so unhappy with myself that, or my appearance, that anything drastic happened. But then when I got to college, I think being on a national stage, you know, in a tight jersey with people watching me, and then that's when I have my Snapchat, my Instagram. And so all of those things happen, and I'm looking at the other girls on my team and I'm looking at their bodies, and I'm weighing myself and I'm seeing I'm gaining weight and my jersey feels tight or my spandex feel this. I started to try to combat that. So I started dieting, I started restricting my calories a ton. I was obsessed about how much I was weighing and if I was losing weight. And then I was so stressed out and I was restricting so badly that I started binging and I started eating more food and feeling guilty and shameful about it. And then I would not eat to make up for that. And then I would eat more because I didn't eat. And so it just became the cycle of an unhealthy relationship with food in my body. And I think back on it and it's really sad. And I feel like I'm so far from that girl now. Yeah. And I think a month ago or two, I was sitting on a plane looking at pictures on my phone and I started thinking about, I think I might have found a picture of myself that sometimes I would like look up pictures of myself when I was thin or when I was what I wanted to be. And I would say, Victoria, you gotta look back how you used to look here. And I think I saw one of those pictures or I saw a model or something I had saved and I started to tear up a little bit because I was just so proud of myself that I haven't done that in years. And yeah. I would just say for any girl listening who feels that way, the first thing is, you know, you're not the only girl feeling that way. You're not the only guy feeling that way. I think guys struggle with body image issues as well. You know, they want to be bigger. They want to be toned. They want to eat as much. They want to lift as much. They want to meet their weight, whatever it is for wrestling or crew. And I think you're not alone in being insecure, but it also does not have to be permanent. Whatever body image issue, eating disorder, image or issue you're struggling with, does not have to be permanent. It does not have to be like this for the rest of your life. And I think when I realized that and I got help and I started reading books on intuitive eating, mindful eating is my favorite thing. That's how I eat now. I started working on this and becoming more self-aware of my triggers and starting to practice self-love. And I am so grateful that I did. And I honestly don't know where I would be if I had Snapchat and Instagram when I was on my 14 threes team. I think poor Victoria, she would be down a dark hole if that had happened then. So that's sort of the overview of my relationship with all of that.
Yeah, that's awesome insight. I do feel bad for our kids now because they can't help but subscribe to these things because everyone else is doing it. It's easy access, and it takes a lot of discipline and self-control to try to remove yourself from that.
It's just too much connection. Like, we are connecting with people way too much. I mean, it used to be nice. Like, if I follow someone on Instagram, I know what they're eating for breakfast, lunch, dinner, who they're hanging out with, what they're wearing. I know everything. 99% of the things I don't want to know. I don't want to know. And it's just too much that we know about everyone's accomplishments and what they're doing and how great they are and what they're eating, what they're wearing, and how they look. And it's just overloaded information. And honestly, I coached a volleyball clinic and I thought it was just the first group. I was like, oh, they were kind of quiet. That was like, they were kind of quiet. I wonder why. Maybe they're intimidated, whatever. The next group, same thing. The next group, same thing. The fourth group that I coached over this weekend, same thing, just kind of quiet, shy, nothing like me and my teammates used to be when we were 15 or 16. And I was talking about this with someone because I was like, was it a bad clinic? Did they not like my coaching style? Was I like what it was? And we got to this conclusion of, I think you spend so much time on your phone that when you put your phone away for a 2-hour volleyball clinic and you have to meet the stranger next to you and interact with the girl coaching, you're not used to it, you know? And I don't know if that was the reason, but I talked to some of the coaches at the club and they were saying, yeah, like that's how it is these days. There's so much of an obsession with social media that people are less and less like interacting in real life.
Yeah, so true. Actually, even in these last 2 years with my high school team, I've been having to teach things such as, so before when we used to do our team bonding at the beginning of the year, I usually let some of the senior leaders help plan it. They put forth an agenda, I approve it, I make sure the parents know what's going on, and then they go do it. And I try to remove myself because I want them to have their own time. It usually involves like a sleepover, people paint their nails, they make something together. It's a fun event. I go for part of it. Obviously, I can't sleep over. I let them do their thing just to make sure things are okay. And then there's usually a couple parents there to supervise the sleepover. And I would say in the last 2 or 3 years, it's quickly devolved from some quality time and fun events to just a group dinner at Sweet Tomatoes and
sitting around the table on our phones.
Yes. And our group hangouts, I'm at a point where at our tournaments I have to have no phone time. Like I said, all right, everyone, we're off for 2 rounds, 30 minutes, let's just have no phones out unless we're playing a game. So we end up playing like some heads up game, but even then it was hard for them to interact naturally. And it's unfortunate, and I think it's just kind of a new problem of our generation. But I've noticed a drastic change even within 2 or 3 years with the lack of engagement and even the desire to engage. Like maybe by the time they get to real person interaction, they're socially exhausted already. You know, they've already made these. I always try to equate it like the way I communicate to my girls is like if you ever binge through a whole can of Pringles or like a whole bag of chips, you still feel hungry afterward, right? But you keep eating and eating, it doesn't satisfy you. And I feel like these virtual engagements are just like that. I can DM somebody, I can like a photo, I can have Facebook friends. I'm sure the younger fans are like, yeah, Facebook's for old people, Snapchat friends, whatever. But you're still going to be hungry for that true, authentic interaction. So by the time they do get that authentic interaction, they're full on some of the empty virtual connections, which, it's like trying to eat a whole bag of Pringles before you eat your favorite home cooked meal that your mom made you. It's like you're just not going to feel that great by the time you get that.
And you just aren't, there's no end. Like you could DM all night long. You can keep refreshing your TikTok feed. You can keep refreshing your Instagram feed. It doesn't end. Yeah. So it's just, it's a lot. And it's not like, and it's not their fault. I mean, I feel like if I grew up, like at my club volleyball tournaments, when we had off time, we had to talk. We didn't pull out phones when I was 14, 15, 16. We had to ref games. We played games outside. We talked. I used to play kick the can all the time with my family when we had people over. Like we just didn't have that. And so I'm sure if we did, I would be just the same.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just being aware of it. And I think it's cool to go to a dinner and be like, let's all leave our phones in the car. Mm-hmm. I do that when I go out with my friends, all my girlfriends, like we just want to connect. So try it. I encourage you guys at lunch at school, like don't use your phone, or try one day not to check your phone when school ends to when practice starts. Just check it after practice. And it's like really hard for people to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think we have to be more intentional with our social engagements to get the same experience. So going back to some of the body image stuff, what advice would you give to the athletes that struggle with it, are aware of it, but don't want to reach out necessarily to an advocacy group, or like how do you recommend for someone to start dealing with that in a productive way?
Well, sort of against, that the don't want to reach out. But the first thing I would say is tell someone. And it doesn't have to be reaching out for a therapist. It doesn't have to be reaching out for a doctor's appointment. I mean, it could literally be just tell your parent, tell your best friend, tell your brother, tell your sister, tell someone I'm having an issue with this or I'm struggling. That is the most important thing you can do. That is the most important thing I did. Another thing is, like, if you don't feel like you can tell people yet, can you Google it? Nowadays, there are so many people talking about all this stuff. I'm so grateful that I would find 200 things if I Googled it now. Google, like binge eating disorder, Google body dysmorphia, Google obsessed with the scale, and just see what stories you can find. If there are people talking about their recovery stories, if there are books. I read a book that changed my life. I have it sitting over here, called Breaking Free from Emotional Eating by Janine Roth. I read that book about binge eating, and it changed the way I approached food. And that's a book. That wasn't me going to therapy. So there are ways that by yourself or with the help of one other person, you can at least start acknowledging what you're going through and work towards it becoming better. And along with that, I will say it's not a weakness and it doesn't make you uncool. And if there's living proof of that, my whole team knew I was depressed and saw a therapist, and I still played, I still was a leader, and I still had a good career. Everyone that knows me on social media knows I've had an eating disorder issue, knows I've had mental health issues. They still follow me and they still think I'm cool. And I use this word cool because I think that's what everyone wants these days, right? They want to be cool. And so we just fear, like, what's going to make me not cool? What's going to make me an outcast? Asking for help, I think, will make you so much cooler than not asking for help. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing, is just tell someone what you are going through.
Yeah, for sure. That's great advice. And hopefully, if things do get out of control, people can end up in some type of professional help. I know that's a really big leap for someone to go from, I've just realized I'm depressed, but I don't know if I'm ready to go to therapy. So yeah, telling someone you trust, someone that's going to love you regardless of what you tell them, is really the most important step. So that's a really great tangible step for them.
Yeah, for sure.
So now that your USC season is over, what's the next stage for, I guess, what's your 5-year, 10-year, maybe your 20-year? Where do you envision yourself in those time frames?
It's funny when you say, a few things come to my mind, but when you say like 5-year, 10-year, there's a great acceptance speech from Matthew McConaughey. Have you seen it? Do you know what I'm talking about? Golden Globe Awards. I think you would really like it. Someone sent it to me the other day and I love it. And he basically says that his hero, the person that he's chasing, is himself in 5 years, I think. And it's like every 5 years, he just wants to be better than himself in the next 5 years. And so I think for me, if I look at high school to the end of college, I had no idea what I would accomplish, what I would survive, and what I would make it through. And so just knowing that those 4 years were so unexpected for me, as I look to the future, I'm not trying to plan out what I think is going to happen, because I know that so much can change and there's so much possibility and room for growth and improvement and opportunity. So I think right now I'm just focusing on creating things I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about putting out a podcast that has conversations that are going to help people. I'm passionate about making a YouTube video that can change someone's day or their athletic career. I'm passionate about speaking at schools and hopefully encouraging that one person to go see a therapist who might not have seen that therapist. So I think that's sort of my focus right now, are these little things that make a big difference. And then hopefully 4 years from now, I don't know, we'll see. But I definitely know that I hope to create a path that is unlike most paths. And it's easy to see someone and say, I want to be like them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you should maybe see someone and say, I like what they've done. I want to accomplish similar things, but I want to do it as me. And a lot of people, too, watch my videos and they say, I want to play volleyball at USC. I want to be just like you. I think that's super flattering, and I'm happy I've inspired you, but that will also work against you if you're too much like, I have to follow this path. You know, you could your story could be you don't get into USC, but you get into this school, and then you beat USC in the tournament, and now that's your story, and you are the only person that has done that, you know? So I think it's great to grab inspiration from people, but don't try to be exactly like anyone else. And I hope that I create a career one day that is unlike a career someone else has had. And that's scary. It's not that stable. It's hard to explain to people, but that's okay, because back to this beginning concept, I believe in myself. I know what I'm capable of.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like you've already blazed a huge trail for yourself. I mean, your path from 14 threes to USC, mental health advocate, body image advocate, to now where you're at now. I mean, that's, I highly doubt there's anybody else that has done exactly what you've done in the order and the life experiences. So it sounds like you're already.
And I didn't plan it, you know? So, and I'm sure that, and it's also like, how are you telling your story? We are narrators. Anyone listening to this, you are constantly narrating your life. You are saying, you're either telling this story, you know, I'm either saying, I made the 14 threes team and I'm a middle and my friend is already committed to college and I'm not going to be good enough. And I started club too late and I missed 12s and I missed 13s and I'm never going to make it. Or I'm narrating it like, this is my first year of club. I'm so excited to learn. I'm on the 14 threes team. I'm just going to have a good time. I'm going to learn as much as I can. Anything can happen if I have the attitude and I put in the effort. Like, how are you narrating your life? And it doesn't have to be volleyball. It can be everything. Like, when you go to school, is it no one likes me? I have no friends. I'm never going to make friends and I'm a disappointment and I'm going to fail my exam? Or is it, what a great challenge today to make a new friend. I'm going to sit with someone at lunch. I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone. And I fully believe that there are relationships to be built at this school that I haven't really looked at yet. And I'm going to study really hard. And, you know, like, how are you narrating your life? Are you, is Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, you know, narrating your life and is everything sad and down? Or is SpongeBob SquarePants narrating your life and everything is optimistic? And that is a choice. That is a choice. So it's really important people are aware of the voice that they're using to tell their story and choosing to make it the best voice that's going to serve them.
Yeah, it's so true. I just 2 weeks ago with our team, as we're ending our season, we just been struggling a lot with confidence, and I had them starting to practice affirmations. You know, it's like, you know, what are the most, you research any successful person, they always self-talk either in their head or vocally. I self-talk too before I'm about to serve, and you know, pick one phrase that they can do and live out that phrase. And you have to live as a sandwich. Like, you have to talk before the action, let the action happen, and then talk afterward. Like, you got to contain that moment, but always make sure you start and end things with an affirming mindset. But yeah, I like the SpongeBob SquarePants approach.
Yeah, inner dialogue is exactly where confidence comes from. I mean, confidence is literally the things you say to yourself. So are you saying good things to yourself? I mean, and I think it's great that you're coaching them up on saying the good things.
Yeah. I said, I touched upon another question I forgot to ask you about, going back to the playing days, about confidence, because, you know, one question I always get a lot is, no matter how many practices I play, no matter how many games, I still don't feel confident. So what's your advice? You already touched upon, you know, some of the inner conversations you can have. Like, how did you make sure you maintain confidence even when you had a run of not playing well?
That's interesting that someone would say no matter how many practices, I'm still not confident. Because I think at some point in time, like, if you're practicing with care and attention to detail, I mean, it's going to make you feel like, I always had to pass serve receive before the game. So we had like a serve receive warm up that we did for 20 minutes and then we played the game. That wasn't enough for me. Like, I had to feel better about my passing before the game. So I would go upstairs with a freshman and I had her serve at me for another 10 extra minutes. Just me, the ball, and a server, to gain confidence and get warm and get sweaty and feel like I could do this. So if you're actually practicing with detail and you're tuned into what's happening, I mean, that has to definitely help. But I mean, you gotta find what works for you. That could be a pump up song, that could be a motivational video, that could be watching your own highlights, that could be looking in the mirror and saying, I'm a badass, and like talking yourself up. I don't know what it is for everyone. For me, it always changed, but I think at the end of the day, it was the dialogue and the self-talk. And I had games where I was constantly talking to myself, like one game, I forget what I said to myself. It was something like, I'm the best there is, or I'm the best there is, or I'm the shit, I'm the shit, I'm the shit. And I just kept saying it like over and over and over in my head, so much so that I didn't even have time to think about other things. Like I was just repeating it, even though there was no belief. And then 10 minutes into playing and thinking this, I'm starting to believe it, and I'm starting to say it with more oomph. And then you start to believe it. So, I mean, it's whatever works for you, but it's awareness. Are you aware of the reps you're putting in? Are you aware of what you're saying to yourself?
Okay. Yeah. So it's definitely finding your individual, whatever makes you click. But definitely if you don't know where to start, sounds like the affirmations, the self-talk is a great place to start.
Yeah, and you have to find it, right? I think a lot of people are like, tell me how to be confident. Tell me how to be a better volleyball player. You have to figure it out. I mean, everything that happened to me in my life, I had to figure it out. You know, I didn't have someone telling me, go see a therapist. I had to get to rock bottom and make a decision that this road wasn't an option for me. So I had to figure it out. And I think if you really want something in life, like you're going to make it happen. Make it happen has honestly been like my go-to phrase my entire volleyball career. Like, if I want it, make it happen. If I want to be libero, make it happen. What does that mean? I don't know. Put in the reps, go an extra, work on my confidence, see a therapist, figure it out. Like, just make it happen. But no one is going to make anything happen for you in this life. Like, you have to take charge.
Yeah. That's another generational shift I've seen in some of the players I've been coaching is somehow the desire to fight for your own experiences seems to be fading. Just coaching them. I mean, the girls are still working hard. They're still very well behaved. They want to learn, but there's something that is being lost from just a grittiness that I'm still figuring out as a coach. Like, how do I adapt or evolve with this new generation of kids that are coming up? So I'm curious about what your thoughts are on, I guess, how your experience with social media, or even some, the onset of mental health awareness, like if that's related to maybe people not lacking the ability to be able to fight for the things that they truly want as much as before. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Well, it has a lot to do with parenting. Do you have parents that are giving you everything, and they're not letting you have your voice, and they're doing it for you, and you can't really control that, So I think, unfortunately, I think it's a lot about how you're raised. My mom always said to me, dream it, believe it, achieve it. And my parents just instilled in me that I could do anything I want. I think my dad was constantly the voice of, you can do anything, like you are the greatest. Like, my dad was like, you could be the next Beyonce, you could be the next Picasso. Like, my dad, like, almost too much, but my dad's belief that I could do anything I wanted, that hit something in me. My mom telling me to just get it done, make it happen. Like, that is how she lived her life. Like, my mom never asked people to do things for her. She just got it done. So the combination of my dad telling me I could do anything and my mom telling me to make it happen, like, that just gave me the abilities to figure out my own path. But it's definitely hard if I had my parents fighting my battles when I was 12, or if I had them telling me to quit when I made 14 threes, I would have been shaped differently.
Mm-hmm. No, so true. One of the most annoying phrases that my dad used to tell me growing up. He's like one of the least athletic persons I've ever known. Like, he just trips on himself and is very uncoordinated, but he always told me, it's like, I love Nike because of the slogan, just do it. Because he would just tell me to do something. I'm trying to think of an example. Like, go mow the lawn. It's like, Dad, I don't know how to. Just do it. And sometimes he should show me so I don't hurt myself. But he was just always very just kind of like just figure it out. It's like it's okay if you mess up. Like what's the worst thing that happens, right? And yeah, I feel lucky that I had a dad that just told me to figure it out. It pissed the heck out of me as a younger person, but growing up, just having the ability to kind of deal with my own things, I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we're down to our last question. Any closing words you have for people out there listening? We've touched upon, how to fight for your spot on a sports team. We've touched upon, if you are struggling with mental health issues, that's okay. You can still live a happy, healthy life. Go seek help. Anything else you want to share in terms of inspiring people to kind of be the best version of themselves?
I would have to tell them that wherever they are right now is okay. We constantly want to be this far in the future, this awesome thing. They want, you want to have your SAT score, you want to be at this school, or you're thinking back on what you were or how far you need to go. And it's just like, it's okay to be totally happy and content with where you are right now. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to be at your dream school yet. You don't have to be on the ones team. You don't have to be a straight A student. Like, wherever you are right now is okay. And it's probably really hard for a lot of people to accept that, because we constantly want to be better. We want to be higher achieving, or we want to be more impressive, or this and that. So wherever you are, just like be fully okay with that. This is where you are right now, right? There's nothing you can do about it. You can't fix it in any way. Like right now, as you watch this video, wherever you're coming from, wherever you are living, whatever your story is, like that is you, and that's okay. So it's important to be nice to yourself and to respect your process and be patient with yourself as you grow and develop. So I wish I had someone when I was younger telling me it was okay to just be where I was.
That's great. Oh man, that's really inspiring. So oftentimes I think goals are important, but they can be obsessive and they can take us out of the moment. So those are some really wise words.
Yeah, so many kids these days there's no self-care. Like, I used to come home from a stressful day of school and paint my nails, or I love to, like, I don't know, do my hair in funny ways. But it's just a lot of these kids, like, they don't do anything for fun, turn your phone off and for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, like, lay on your floor and play with your dog, or like paint your nails or curl your hair. I don't know, just do something fun for you that's not going to be posted about. It's not for your parents, not for your sister, your best friend, or to impress someone. Like, it is just for your own selfish happiness. And like, you can do that and you deserve that. And there's so many like 16-year-old kids that are like, no, I don't have time to do that. But it's like, you do, I promise. Watch an episode of The Office, you deserve it.
Yeah. And it's about making time for it. If it's important, you got to make time for it. And you're not going to die by doing 30 minutes less of homework,
I know, and you are important. Like, self-care is important. Like, your mental health is just as important as being a great volleyball player and having straight A's. Like, and you can't have those two things if you don't have good self-care and solid mental health. So just don't forget about that either.
Yeah, one thing I always tell my kids at the beginning of the year, I teach at a school where it's one of the top public schools in the nation. I mean, the API scores, everyone's going to top schools. I mean, it's so heavily math, science, and English focused, and people are obsessing over so much about, I got to be at this school, I got to take this class, even though it's going to tear me up. But I think being honest with yourself and what you want to do with your life, because when I keep in touch with my students, they'll be on this path, they'll end up in a job they just completely hate, but because it was the path that was set for them. And then even when they're 30, they don't know what they want to do. And I think the most important question that people have to wrestle with, that people are afraid to, is, what do I want to do with my life? Like, you don't have to have the answers, but having that conversation with yourself every day, every month, just kind of exploring, is like, well, let's try this, let's do that. If it doesn't work out, that's okay. But I just feel like people are not thinking about that early enough. And when they do think about it, they feel like they have to have the answer. And like you said, you don't have to have a carved out path. You just have to know who you are, care for yourself, and just go where your life takes you, as long as you're taking care of yourself.
And it's like, are you being the best version of yourself? Like maybe you played your best volleyball and you still didn't make the team. You should be proud of that. Maybe you studied as hard as you could, but you didn't, you got to be. Like, be proud of that. Like, you are doing your best. And you are the only person that gets to judge that, not a teacher's letter grade or not some coach that's picking the roster, you know? Yeah. So just that it's okay to decide if you're being your best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not what your best is in comparison to someone else.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks so much for your time, Victoria. This has been a huge treat for our fans, and just also for me to get to know you more and hear more about your story. And you know, I'm always inspired by your videos and just even some of your Instagram posts where you do the me Instagram and then really me, and just how honest you are. You show your cellulite, you show the wrinkles in your stomach, and that's so important for people to know that.
Here's a good real me. I have a pimple here. I covered it up with foundation, but I'll wipe it off.
I got one right here too. We're pimple buddies. I don't know if you can see that connection.
I love it. Mine literally, it looks like a third eye, but it's okay. Oh yeah, you do have one right in the same spot.
Wisdom comes in. This is our third eye. Just in time for Halloween, we could draw a little eye around
That's funny.
Well, yeah, totally. This is, you know, you gotta love yourself enough to not take yourself too seriously, and just to know that I'm human just like anybody else. I don't have to be like anybody else. So I think those images are so great for people young and old to see that, you know, as you can accept yourself, and so can other people. I think it's a really powerful message.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on The Dig. I'm so grateful. I'm pumped to watch it and see the feedback and comment back to everyone. So I appreciate it.
Sure. And I'll leave Victoria's Instagram handle and YouTube channel in the description box. Do you have a website you want them to follow you at, or anything else you want to shout out?
My website is just victoriagarrick.com. It's kind of boring, more for work purposes, but you're welcome to check it out to learn more about me. But yeah, my Instagram is Victoria Garrick, my YouTube channel. Also, I have a podcast called Real Pod. It's on Instagram. You can just type in Real Pod. I try to have really honest conversations with all sorts of people. I actually have April Ross coming on the podcast soon. So hopefully by the time this is out, my interview with April will be out. So I hope you guys check that out. And there's also 3 great volleyball interviews with Taylor Formico, former UCLA Pac-12 Libero of the Year, Haley Hodson, Stanford All-American, and Nicole Davis, 2-time Libero Olympic gold medalist. So those are cool ones to check out.
Oh man, that's an all-star. Haley Hodson, was that the opposite that got injured?
Yeah, you should listen to the episode. It's really heartbreaking, and also it's just a great listen because we were all like, what happened? And so she finally sat down and she laid it all out there. So I was honored to get that she shared that with me.
Yeah, that's great. You know, there's another story that I remember finding out about an article about, because she was an all-star freshman, and then all of a sudden halfway through the season, like, where'd she go?
Yeah.
She Barbosa, she was a national team member. She was alternate. She missed the Olympic team 3 times. Cynthia Barbosa, I don't know if you remember her from the national team.
She played for USC, didn't she?
She played for, I think it was a Stanford standout.
Okay.
And like her story was, yeah, I think it would be great if you reach out to her, because her story is, I was alternate as a teenager. How did I miss the roster 2 or 3 times in a row? And like how that affected her psyche, and how she had to step away from the game. And like,
wow.
And that her identity was volleyball. And yet people kept asking her like, well, why aren't you playing here? And it's just, you know, that's tons of pressure. You know, I made the alternate as a teenager. I'm being groomed to be the next one, but yeah, I'm not there. But like some of the mental challenges and emotional challenges that came with that. But yeah, if you ever run out of guests, I think she seems to vibe with the same real talk. That
amazing. I'll look her up for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for the rec, and thanks for a great interview.
Yeah, of course. All right, well, stay safe down there. Keep your lungs healthy. Thanks again, Victoria, and hopefully we'll get to reconnect in the future.
Okay, thanks so much. Bye.
Okay, Victoria. Bye.